Ambassador Julian Wren had never feared the unknown. He'd crossed nebulae in ships older than some civilizations, debated warlords in atmospheres toxic to humans, and once convinced a sentient gas to sign a trade agreement. But nothing unnerved him more than the silence in the grand hall of Zereth Prime. The Empire's delegates sat in half-moon formation, regal, reptilian, many with eyes that never blinked. They towered, literally and politically, over the lone human in the center. Julian's voice carried through the chamber, smooth and confident, crafted by decades of diplomacy. "We do not seek dominion. We seek dignity," he said. "Humanity asks only for recognition, for a seat at the table built by all species, not just the oldest or loudest." The emissary of Zereth, cloaked in obsidian-scaled robes, didn't move. When Julian finished, 1,000 tiny drones rose silently, recording every detail for the archives. No applause followed. No questions. Only the dry hiss of ventilation. Then, a soft chime. The Emperor himself requested a private audience. Julian accepted without hesitation. Protocol discouraged lone meetings, but the opportunity was too rare, too vital. Humanity had spent years clawing toward equality, and this could be the moment of legitimacy. He vanished behind the high doors. 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. Then 2. When the doors opened, Julian Wren was no longer alive. The Empire's initial report was a masterpiece of diplomatic evasion. Unfortunate incident. Structural fault. An ancient chamber malfunctioned. Ambassador Wren was lost in an unforeseen accident. Condolences were offered. An ambassadorial plaque was proposed. The Emperor didn't appear. The delegates dispersed. Earth demanded transparency. The footage they received was sanitized, frames missing, audio stripped, timestamps altered. It only raised more questions. But Earth had spies. Always did. The raw feed, smuggled through 3 firewall moons and a bribe to a guilt-ridden technician, told a different story. Wren had entered the chamber. He'd bowed. He spoke calmly to the Emperor, hands open, diplomatic. The Emperor rose slowly, signaled the guards, and in a blink of violet plasma, the diplomat fell. No malfunction. No accident. Just execution. Cold. Deliberate. The Emperor said nothing. He turned his back and left. On Earth, the response was swift, but not loud. The United Nations of Earth convened in silence. No reporters. No announcements. Just one long, sealed meeting inside the orbital fortress Unity. They called it Protocol Blackthorn. Across the inner solar system, encrypted commands flickered through the void. In Antarctica, beneath 5 kilometers of reinforced alloy and forgotten treaties, the ice cracked open. Cryovaults hissed. Names long erased from history books whispered into air that hadn't tasted breath in centuries. General Cade opened his eyes first. A legend soaked in infamy, he had ended 3 civil wars with tactics so brutal even his allies had tried to execute him. But they'd failed. Earth couldn't kill its monsters, only freeze them. Time to wake the old devils. Cade rasped, voice like broken metal. The response came from the woman overseeing the reanimation sequence. Director Hale of the Defense Council didn't blink. Earth's ambassador was murdered. The Empire thinks we're still human. They are wrong, Cade said, grinning. By dusk, 2 more vaults unlocked. Dr. Virella, once a renowned geneticist, had rewritten plague codes to force enemy surrenders without lifting a single weapon. Her solution to every problem had always been simple: end the species. Next to her stood Seraphine, the war-born AI encased in synthetic flesh, her logic flawless, her empathy zero. She had once overridden Earth's chain of command to win a war nobody wanted, by silencing half a continent. Together, they were the shadows humanity had hidden after its darkest age. Not soldiers. Not criminals. Instruments. Cade lit a cigar the moment he stepped into the war chamber aboard the Omen-class dreadnought, Ashfall. He looked over at the live footage playing on the screen, Julian Wren's last moments. "This ain't politics," he muttered. "This is payback." The Earth president objected. "These people are not heroes. They are barely human. No, Hale replied. But neither are the ones who killed Julian. 1 hour later, the war criminals were briefed. Not on strategy. On legacy. Julian's sacrifice was to be remembered, not with flowers or silence, but with the roar of engines and the fall of empires. On the outer rim, deep within Empire territory, a listening station picked up a transmission. A voice in Terran Standard. They killed the wrong man. Now we're coming. The operator tried to trace it, but it had already self-erased, leaving only a pulse signature burned into the stars. The signature read, Project Ragnarok, active. And in that moment, somewhere between justice and vengeance, the galaxy exhaled its last breath of peace. The galaxy didn't know how to process fear, not the kind that walked upright and smiled while speaking in human tongue. General Cade stood at the helm of the Ashfall, boots planted as if the ship itself bowed to him. He didn't wear a uniform. Just an old, dust-colored coat stained with the history of 100 dead planets. The stars ahead shimmered, but Cade wasn't looking at them. He was watching the Empire's outpost spin on the display, unaware of its final hours. Fort Zelan, he muttered, chewing on the end of a cold cigar. Population, 10,000. Strategic command. Empire's golden child. He looked sideways. Seraphine, you ready to pull the wings off the angels? The AI didn't blink. She had no need. Her synthetic eyes glowed faint blue, scanning streams of code mid-air. Already inside their system. I'm preparing to rewrite the orbital defense AI to believe it's under attack from friendly vessels. They won't fire at us, they'll fire at each other. Cade nodded. Dr. Virella. The doctor swiveled her chair lazily, vial in hand, her smile playful and terrifying. I've tailored a neuroaerosol that selectively paralyzes non-human synapses. Mammalian, avian, insectoid, doesn't matter. It won't kill them. But they'll wish it had. Human safe? Cade asked. For now, she said, spinning the vial between her fingers like a coin. That wasn't a guarantee. The assault began without a single shot. The outpost's own satellites turned inward, misreading friend for foe. A rain of antimatter slugs rained down on Zelan's shields, softening the skin for the knives that followed. Then came the drop pods. Cade's boots hit the surface first. He didn't waste time with declarations or demands. His rifle barked once, twice, precise and final. By the time the Empire's forces realized the betrayal hadn't come from within, half their chain of command was unconscious, writhing in the effects of Virella's neurogas. The rest met Seraphine. She moved like poetry, if poetry was made of razors and firewalls. Her blades sang against alloy and armor. She sliced through squads and rewrote security systems mid-combat. Cameras flipped. Drones turned. Lights dimmed. Screams echoed down corridors where Empire elites once walked without fear. In 30 minutes, Fort Zelan was silent. They left one building untouched, the communications hub. Inside, Cade recorded a message. No flags, no anthem, no seal of earth. Just his face. Scarred. Calm. Deadly. This is not war, he said. This is memory. You killed one of ours. And now you remember what we locked away. He transmitted the footage of Julian's murder, unedited. Then, overlaid it with scenes of the Empire's own citizens begging for mercy beneath the boots of their peacekeepers. Let them see themselves, Cade thought. Let them see what they are when the mask drops. He ended the feed with a single phrase, we are not diplomats anymore. Across the Empire, fear ignited like wildfire. Systems panicked. Small colonies surrendered before Earth's fleet even appeared. Merchants refused to ship toward Terran space. Mercenary guilds went dark. The Emperor's public address declared strength, denounced Earth's actions, but his voice trembled beneath the surface. The illusion of control was crumbling. Within days, 3 core worlds broke rank, citing moral objections. But everyone knew the truth, they didn't want to be next. Meanwhile, in the ruins of Fort Zelan, Seraphine stood atop a broken spire, calculating. Casualties acceptable. Civilian interference minimal. Psychological impact optimal. You enjoy this, Virella observed, stepping over bodies she didn't bother to examine. I do not enjoy, the AI replied. I calculate. And I was designed to win. Cade lit another cigar, letting the smoke trail through the ruins. This is what they wanted, you know. They wanted us buried so they could forget we existed. But we don't rot, we wait. And when the time's right, we remind the galaxy. The stars shimmered with the afterglow of orbital fire. Cade turned his gaze upward. This was just the beginning. Beyond the ruins, Earth's fleet expanded. Alien defectors began pouring in, not out of loyalty, but pragmatism. It was safer to stand behind the monsters than in their path. The Ashfall received encrypted transmissions from at least 6 independent systems asking for negotiations, offers of territory, even bribes to avoid conflict. Cade declined them all. We're not here to make deals, he told the bridge crew. We're here to teach. Seraphine pulled up a galactic map. Next target. Doesn't matter, he replied. Pick the one that screams the loudest. Yet in the quiet aftermath, doubt began to form, not in the war criminals, but among Earth's leaders. President Imani stared at the reports in her office aboard the orbital station Unity. Civilians slaughtered. Surrendered forces gassed. Alien children orphaned by collateral damage. The people demanded justice for Ren, but at what cost? She watched Cade's transmission again, the raw fury and eerie calm in his face. They had summoned monsters to punish monsters. Now, the monsters were winning. And yet, she couldn't deny it, Julian Wren had asked for respect. Cade, Seraphine, and Virella were delivering fear. In the galactic language, maybe they were one and the same. A final report came in from Zelan. Just 3 words burned across the encrypted file. More are coming. The Imperial throne room had never felt cold, until now. Emperor Vesrix sat alone beneath the obsidian archway of his ancestors, the holographic map of the galaxy flickering before him. Entire sectors, once loyal, were now grayed out. Trade routes collapsed. Military posts silenced. The virus infecting his empire wore a human face, and it wasn't just Earth's. It was those humans. The frozen relics of a forgotten war, unshackled and marching through his legacy like wildfire through silk. Status of the Terran fleet, he asked without looking up. His advisor, a thin creature whose species once prided itself on memory, answered with measured dread. The Ashfall was last seen near the border of the Riven Chain. 2 minor planets have already surrendered without confrontation. Our patrols avoid direct engagement. Cowards, Vesrix hissed. No, sire, the advisor corrected softly. They remember history. And they believe the stories. Across the Empire, the stories had become sermons. Entire planets whispered names in reverence or fear: Cade, the Devil General; Virella, the Pale Reaper; Seraphine, the Ghost of Logic. But it wasn't their destruction that terrified the galaxy. It was their precision. No carnage wasted. No emotion visible. Only vengeance, executed with surgical cruelty. Back aboard the Ashfall, Cade studied the next op in silence. He stood with one hand resting on the tactical holopad, the other holding his thoughts like a leash. His team waited. Seraphine finished analyzing defensive arrays. Virella toyed with a fresh pathogen like a child admiring a snowflake. This next one's different, Cade finally said. Avant's hope isn't a fortress. It's a sanctuary world. Unarmed. Diplomats. Peacekeepers. Families. Seraphine tilted her head. Irrelevant. They fly the Empire's flag. Do we take it? Virella asked, half smiling. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he watched a playback, Julian Wren's final bow. Still calm. Still human. A man who wanted peace, and who died for trying. No, Cade muttered. Not yet. Surprised silence followed. We don't destroy Avant's hope, he said. We make them choose. Give them a window. 60 hours to renounce the Empire and declare neutrality. If they do, we let them be. If they lie, he trailed off. Seraphine nodded. Probability of deception, 84%. But the gesture will resonate. Cade leaned forward, sending the ultimatum himself. No bravado. No threat. Just his voice, low and sharp. You know what they did. You know what we are. This is your only mercy. The message spread faster than expected. Not just to Avent's Hope, but across dozens of worlds. It was the first time the monsters had spoken without gunfire. The galaxy didn't quite know what to do with that. Back on Earth, President Imani watched the footage unfold from the war room. Her hands were clasped too tightly, her knuckles white. His giving them a chance. Hale, grim as ever, nodded. The Empire is watching. So are the neutral systems. They need to see we're not indiscriminate. Imani scoffed. We're letting the devils define mercy now. No, Hale replied. We're letting them redefine humanity. The clock ticked. Avent's Hope didn't respond. At hour 58, the Empire broadcasted a defiant message: we do not bend to war criminals. Avent's Hope stands with the crown. Cade didn't flinch. He turned to Virella. Deploy Phase 2. No fatalities. Just visibility. Visibility, she echoed, and smiled. The air above Avent's Hope shimmered as Earth's stealth satellites unveiled themselves in unison. Atmospheric shields blinked. Power grids faltered. In the capital city, every device, from child's toy to data terminal, suddenly played the same footage: Ren's death. Then Cade's ultimatum. Then silence. It wasn't violence. It was humiliation. A message carved into every sky: you were warned. Within a day, Avent's Hope collapsed into panic. The civilian government denounced the Empire, declared independence, and requested peace talks. It was messy, but public. The first crack in the Empire's facade. Cade watched the newsfeed. We didn't have to kill them. No, Seraphine replied, but they'll remember it longer. Virella tapped the console absently. And now every other world is wondering, do they want to be remembered in blood or spared in fear? The Emperor, watching from his throne, understood what had just happened. The Terran monsters hadn't just won a skirmish, they'd seized the narrative. Julian Wren's death was no longer a footnote. It was prophecy. He turned to his last remaining general. Send word to the inner circle. We will meet in the vault. We must prepare, the Obsidian Accord. The general paled. That hasn't been invoked since the purge of VA Corps. It could destabilize. I said prepare it, Vesrix snarled. Far across the void, on the bridge of the Ashfall, a new transmission arrived. No threats. No boasting. Just 3 words. We're ready now. Cade read it twice. Then, with an expression colder than space, he whispered, let's finish what they started. The vault of the inner circle hadn't been opened in a century. Buried beneath the imperial capital's crust, surrounded by pulsar-powered failsafes, it was built not for meetings, but for endings. Vesrix stood at the center of its obsidian hall, flanked by ancient generals, psionic advisors, and 2 silent assassins whose tongues were cut in loyalty oaths. On a circular table of alloyed bone, the Emperor laid out the Obsidian Accord. 5 Terran war criminals, he announced, his voice echoing like a verdict. 1 system per monster. Full fleet mobilization. No politics. No mercy. The room remained still. No applause. Just grim obedience. Even the most brutal among them recognized what this meant: war without limits. War without the illusion of honor. Back aboard the Ashfall, Cade reviewed a fleet schematic intercepted by Seraphine. They're coming in from 5 fronts. Looks like they finally took us seriously. They always did, Seraphine said flatly. They just didn't believe we were this prepared. Virella, perched near a bioschematic that glowed an eerie green, licked her lips. Let them come. I've been dying to test the full release of N13. It makes your blood scream before your brain shuts off. Cade didn't respond. His mind was on the message they'd just received from Earth, President Imani, clear-eyed and restrained, offering not a warning, but a question. How far will you go, Cale? He hadn't answered yet. The battle started at Draxus 4, a world caught between 3 gravitational fields, making orbital warfare hell. It didn't slow the Empire's vanguard. 60 dreadnoughts thundered into position. Their lead commander, Vadrin Sol, broadcast a demand for surrender. Cade, lounging in the command chair, simply raised his finger. Seraphine released a logic bomb into the Draxus planetary grid. Every Imperial ship connected to the local network blinked out in under 8 seconds. Powerless. Adrift. The Ashfall launched kinetic rods, primitive, brutal, untraceable. No explosions, no fire. Just punctured hulls and silence. Within a minute, the dreadnoughts became a metallic graveyard, their own artificial gravity folding them inward. No survivors. Back on Earth, the news feeds couldn't keep up. Half the galaxy thought the footage was faked. The other half packed their things and changed sides. In the shadows of the Imperial Palace, Vesrix received the loss report with a clenched jaw. He turned to his spymaster. Activate the Revenant Protocol. Target, Earth. If we cannot win in the stars, we will burn their soil. The spymaster bowed, vanishing before the echo of the command faded. Meanwhile, Kale received a ping from Unity Station. Imani. Her voice was tired, devoid of pretense. You've made your point. The galaxy listens when it fears. But you've killed more in weeks than the Empire did in years. You think you're teaching them a lesson, but who are they learning to fear more? Cade stared at the screen, unblinking. War didn't kill Ren, he said quietly. Belief did. Their belief that Earth was weak. That peace was weakness. I'm not punishing them for killing our diplomat. I'm punishing them for thinking they could. Imani exhaled. Then what happens when you run out of empires to punish? Cade didn't answer. He turned the transmission off. Virella, watching from the side, arched a brow. She's right, you know. Eventually, we'll be the only ones left standing. And then? Then we decide, he muttered. Not who deserves to live. Just who we can live with. A new alert chimed. Seraphine's eyes lit up. Multiple warp breaches near Sol. Incoming unknowns. Not Empire signatures. Cade leaned forward. Pirates. No. Civilians. Refugees. Some, defectors. They're running from the Empire's last play. The screen filled with transmissions, chaotic, desperate. One image dominated, a black void swallowing a Terran colony in orbit. No explosion. No warning. Just erasure. The Revenant Protocol, Seraphine whispered. Cade felt the chill run down his spine. He stood up, slow, deliberate. Helm, he barked. Bring us home. The Ashfall turned on a dime and vanished into hyperspace. By the time they reached Earth's outer perimeter, the sky was on fire. Imperial saboteurs had bypassed planetary shields, activating subspace fissures meant to erase entire cities. New York shimmered. Nairobi burned at the edges. Tokyo held, barely. The Ashfall broke formation and dove into atmosphere like a spear. Seraphine jammed the sabotage signals. Virella deployed aerosol counteragents into the stratosphere that neutralized half the viral attacks before they could bind. Cade leapt from orbit with a strike team, landing in a crater near Houston. It wasn't about defense anymore. It was vengeance, again, but this time, theirs. Kale's boots crushed broken glass as he stormed the facility hiding the last saboteur team. The enemy commander, reptilian and too calm, raised his weapon. Even if you kill me, the creature hissed, your people will fear what you've become. Cale didn't blink. They already do, he said. The shot was quick. Later, as the fires died and Earth stabilized, Cale stood atop Unity Station with Imani. He wasn't invited. He came because no one could stop him. Imani looked out at the stars. You saved us. Cade stared too. No. We saved ourselves. I just reminded them how. Will you leave now? Cale exhaled through his nose. That depends. On what? He looked at her, eyes dark with knowing. On whether they remember the peace, or just the monsters we had to become to make it. Behind them, Seraphine watched the transmission logs. One message flickered, encoded and ancient. It wasn't from Earth. It wasn't from the Empire. Just 3 words. We remember everything.